Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. Also, sorry for the huge microphone. This is apparently the only microphone of mine that actually works. So today I'm going to be talking about places in the world I have surfed. A little bit of background. I am very much a beginner surfer, so don't expect anything too cool on here. Basically, I used to travel as part of my old job and I got to go on some cool trips. I was very lucky because some of my coworkers got to go to some like really terrible places like Pakistan and stuff. But I got to go to Vietnam, Thailand, Hong Kong, and then Alabama, which wasn't too bad. So I'm going to break this down by continents. I've surfed 3 continents so far. I have surfed in Asia, Europe, and North America. I'll start with Asia because it is the shortest list. I've only surfed in Hong Kong. I went here on a work trip in 2023. And of course, before I go anywhere, I always Google if you can surf there. I mean, if there's an ocean or even a large lake, you can probably surf there. Not always. So I Googled it and turns out there's a place called Big Wave Bay. I had a weekend off after my work trip. I stayed 2 extra days in a hostel and then I hiked over this mountain down to Big Wave Bay and rented a board for something like $10 a day. It was really nice. It was just a foam board. Everybody was out surfing in this area of the bay that was sectioned off by netting to keep sharks out. They had some shark attacks in the 90s. And so ever since then, their swimming areas and surfing areas, they just net off. So it was really fun. I surfed all day long. And then there was a little restaurant on the beach that I just ate at and everything. So I hope, of course, to surf and travel to more Asian countries in the future. Probably not anytime soon with my current job situation and the situation with Americans coming. Anyway, and then next is Europe. So I have been very blessed to be able to surf in Europe. There are actually quite a few places in Europe where you can surf. The first place I ever surfed was in Portugal in 2022. I went surfing there 3 times on a trip that my husband and I did on just a personal vacation. If you haven't been to Portugal, definitely go. It's pretty cheap, it's safe, and great beaches and history. In 2023, so like a week after I went surfing in Hong Kong, I went to the UK and went surfing. We went to Cornwall, southwestern England. Show up a picture here. Just turquoise water, beautiful sand beaches, and it's actually the surfing capital of the UK. They get some really decent sized waves there. Then I came back in 2024, June of 2024 for a women's surf camp. And then again in January, February of 2025. I haven't put together that video yet. So I've surfed there 3 times so far. And then I went surfing in Iceland in October 2024. It was a terrible experience, but it was just, it wasn't because of the country or of the waves. It was just, I ended up snapping my surf leash and losing my GoPro. And so that really sucked. Just some bad luck during that session. I would like to surf again in Iceland. This is my second time visiting Iceland. And then I went surfing in the Netherlands actually in February of 2025, right after going to England. I did a hop flight over from London to Amsterdam. It was like $200. It was great. And I went to go visit my brother-in-law and his wife for 2 days. And then, of course, I rented a board and I barely surfed that session, though. I don't even know if it counts. I'll have to go back someday and go surfing because, of course, they live there permanently. So I, of course, will attempt surfing again. So that wraps up Europe. Next to North America, of course, where I live. I learned how to surf in North America. I'll break it down per state. We do have 50 of them. So my goal is to surf every coastal state that I can. It's probably going to be a bit difficult in Mississippi and Louisiana and stuff like that. So I started out surfing in Hawaii. I first went surfing in Hawaii for my high school graduation. For reference, I grew up in Washington State, so it was a very short flight to Hawaii. Even back then, it was like $200, probably less. My dad paid for my friend and I to get surfing lessons and stuff. Back then, they had the fiberglass boards. Nobody had foam surfboards that I remember. We did it off this little island. I haven't lived on Oahu for like 10 years, so there were 2 twin islands, and it was kind of near that. It was off of Kailua. If you ever go to Oahu, Kailua is really cool. Not really famous for its surfing, but Waikiki is also a great place. Basically, 5 years later, I was stationed in Oahu with the Army. And then I didn't get back into surfing until 2 years into being stationed there. And I started surfing on the North Shore, which is the capital of surfing, the world capital of surfing. I also surfed on Waikiki, which if you are a beginner, Waikiki is perfect. For reference, I would surf on the North Shore in a really tiny bay only during the summer. The winter, it gets too crazy up there. So I'd surf on the reef and stuff like that. I wouldn't bother anyone. I stayed away from surfers who were better, and nobody came to that bay. So after that, the next state that I surfed was Florida. After Hawaii, I was stationed in Florida for like 6 months in Pensacola, and it's right on the Gulf Coast. It's next to Alabama. I went during the fall when it was a little bit stormier, so there were some waves. And then next, I was stationed in Maryland, so I drove to the eastern shore of Maryland, and I went surfing on the coast there, and also in Delaware, which is nearby. It borders Maryland. A few years ago, I started living in Virginia. I moved down to Virginia, and then I discovered how much I liked Virginia Beach. There's beach cams there, surf cams, so I go on Surfline and I can look up what the forecast is going to be, how big the waves are, and stuff like that. And there's so much room to surf. There's so much more room, I feel like personally, than in Delaware, and much better than Maryland. It gets a little crazy in the summer for sure with all the tourists, but I like it. And then next, let's see, I surfed in Oregon in 2023, I think it was. And it was the grossest surf experience I've ever had. There were crabs like rotting in the water and stuff. It was so gross. And it smelled. And of course, you had to wear a 5'4" wetsuit because it was so cold. And my wetsuit, like, I immediately got out of the water, went back to the hotel, and just doused it. There was also a whale or shark carcass on the beach. It was pretty far deteriorated. And it was really hard to paddle out and stuff. I caught 2 waves and then I came in. I was like, oh, this is not worth it. And my best friend lives in Portland, and she was telling me that beach I can't remember the name of the beach. I'll put it in here. It wasn't Cannon Beach, but she was like, that's one of the worst beaches there is in Oregon. In 2022, I went up to surf in the Gooden Surf American Dream wave pool. It's in a ginormous mall right outside New York City, but it's in New Jersey technically. So it's a huge mall with like a water park, indoor water park. It's so humid in there. It's like 70 degrees and you're just like, you sweat when you go in there. So it's $250 a session for more progressor surfers, which is just above beginner. So I did that session. And then in May 2024, we were back in Manhattan for a friend's birthday. So I took a cab over to New Jersey and went in the pool again for like a 7 a.m. session or 5 a.m. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, but I paid for the beginner session. It was $125 because that was the only thing available. So I just did that and they kind of pushed you off, and it was kind of fun. And then in, I think, February of 2024, I also went to southern New Jersey and went surfing, caught some little baby waves. And then the next day it was 10-foot waves. So I was really glad I went. I mean, I barely caught some waves, but check that state off the list. New Jersey has some actual pretty powerful waves. If you follow Ben Gravy on YouTube or Steve Hauser, they're both New Jersey surfers, and I'll link their channels down below. But yeah, New Jersey's got some pretty smashing waves. Oh wait, I totally forgot. For North America, forgot about Costa Rica. I've surfed there twice. So Costa Rica is considered part of North America. I had to Google it because I was like, I wasn't sure if it was part of South America or North America. It's, part of Central America. So in 2019, my boyfriend and I went to Costa Rica, and I had not surfed in over a year, and I went on an NSP board. It was so much fun. I caught so many waves. It was just rolling waves and everything. I had so much fun. And then I went back in October 2023 with a friend who was born in Costa Rica and another friend, and we caught a bunch of waves as well. We got to borrow foam boards from the house that we were renting. They had a bunch of boards and stuff, so we just took them out. And that was super fun. I think that's all the countries I've surfed. I haven't surfed in Africa or South America or Australia or Antarctica, maybe someday, though it doesn't look like they have very many waves. I know people have surfed in Antarctica, but yeah, they're doing cruises there and everything, so you never know. So thanks for watching. I hope I didn't forget any countries. I've been traveling to so many. It's so wonderful, but probably won't have any international surf trips this year at all just because of, like I said, job situation and the current political situation. I am a little bit afraid to travel and then come back. Like, people are getting detained at customs and everything for just minor things. So anyway, thank you for watching, and please comment below on different countries you've surfed. I also forgot to mention, but rounding out North America, I got to surf in my home state of Washington. Summer 2024, I was able to turn and everything on the waves. Yay! For more surfing content, including warm and cold water surfing, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.